Welcome to our first podcast. Let's talk about it. I am going to turn it over to Tammy so she can explain what we're doing because this was her idea. And here we are.
Well, this is basically just going to be a place where we're going to talk about it. Whatever really we feel like we want to talk about, we'd like to keep it more local, surrounding areas and our town. We are also planning on doing some lives after town board meetings and discussing what happens during that meeting, what's going on with the town. I think it's important to we both think it's very important to keep everyone informed, and not everybody is as informed as they should be. You may think you are, you're not. I know I wasn't, and I thought I was, and I wasn't. So that's something that we're going to talk about. Pretty much, we're going to delve into that a little bit today. But for the most part, this is going to be a place for us to bring to light home businesses. We're not asking anybody to send us anything for promoting anybody's business. If know a small business, a home business, somebody, let us know. If it's a lot of these people nobody knows about, and we'd like to bring that to light to
To
everybody because
highlight
we
them. We definitely
exactly.
want to highlight small business for sure.
Absolutely, because I don't think that's done enough.
No, no. And we're also going to talk about perhaps we'll get into Canaan or maybe even Berkshire
Mhm.
County or other counties. It's not just politics. It is events going on. It is ideas. It is going to be about history. Long story
He's
short,
popping up somewhere. Let us know. Hey, well, let's see what it's. Let's talk about that. And
eventually we want to be able to like maybe go someplace and do some live interviews.
yep,
Could be
yeah.
anything. So
One
we
thing
are
we're not going to do though is we're not going to make this a national political page. We're going to keep that off of this page. Again, if anybody wants to know where I stand, you can go over to my page, and it is clear where I stand. Um, and I can converse with you over there on that level, but we want to keep this a place where that's doesn't take over and consume everything, because we know that the national level can consume everything.
yes. And so kind of piggybacking on that, no national politics. This is not about people, it's about topics. No
Right. We
personal attacks.
exactly. That's very
We
important as well.
because the whole thing is try to like and it's hard and we know it to try to bridge that divide because the
Hmm.
town is so divided. It was proven in the election. Write-in got 40% of the vote for town supervisor. I lost by 20 votes. Craig lost by 22. The town is genuinely divided.
Hmm.
But this page is to bring us together, talk about local stuff, and it's not just politics. It could be
Nope.
the roasted Brussels sprouts at Mario's, right?
Right.
Because they're
Exactly.
amazing.
Hey, I did you eat? It's whatever we want, and you never know what we want to talk about.
Well, and you never really know what's going to fall out of our mouths, so there's
That's true.
that.
That's true. Some of you may already know that.
Fair. It's fair. Little history on me and Tammy. We used to have an online pro business together. She was my side by side during the election, going to a lot of functions with me, so we could all see everything. So let's get started. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
First, I want to start out with just touching a little bit on the election. Again, divide for sure. And the things I ran on, I still stand by. And that is part of what this podcast is for, promoting small businesses, helping small businesses, our history, transparency, all the things. So, and again, this was Tammy's idea. So here we are.
I think transparency is a big thing,
It's huge.
because
It's
there's, one version's view of what transparency is, and then there's another side of that transparency. And I don't think that everyone has been getting the full,
story.
yeah, of everything that goes on, and that's something that Joanna's going to get into here shortly. But in the election, what we did learn is, well, I felt that we were strung along. And this isn't to slam anybody. This is how I felt, and I'm sure how Joanna felt. I think we went into the whole thing very open,
Naive
completely
and so
honest,
naive.
and honest, very honest,
Mhm.
completely. There was nothing we were not honest about with everybody. And I don't think that we received the same respect.
Right.
I don't think we received the same honesty. Um, so that kind of puts a bad taste in your mouth. And then other things, there you go.
Yeah, we're gonna just move on from that. And just kind of go back a minute. We will be talking eventually about the apartments. We'll be talking about the sidewalks.
Yes, the
We'll be
sidewalks.
talking about the park. We'll be talking about, and although Tammy and I mostly agree on almost everything, um, I do believe that we have the ability to actually show both sides. For any given
Yep.
topic, I can show you both sides of the coin. So the one thing that I wanted to talk about today, and that's really what this is about today, and after this, I'm probably not going to talk about it again. There has been lots of things flying around about the financials. And yeah, that was me. And I'm going to tell you why and what, it's just so we can clear the air on that. This is not personal. This is not about a person. It's about a process. And the process isn't being done correctly.
And in the long run, people need to understand in the long run, this is going to bite us all in the fanny.
Yes,
That
it is.
which is important.
Because we're kind of, looking at the same thing as the school did. We don't raise taxes, we don't raise taxes, we don't raise taxes. And then all of a sudden there's 24, they need 24% more. Um, so let me just tell you how it started. So I started looking, I kept hearing we haven't raised taxes, we haven't raised taxes, we haven't raised taxes. This is actually kind of twofold. One, we were running an election. There has been rumors for years about money stuff with the town. Um, so we wanted to know if we won, what were we
Stepping into.
potentially looking at?
You want to start with a clean slate
Right. And understand, right?
because
And
again, bottom line, if it's not, it falls on, and the new board should take note, each and every single member of the board. You're stepping into that position, you are claiming responsibility. Why would anybody want responsibility from something that they weren't there? Because that's not going to matter. You want to know that okay, all the ducks are where they should, everything is where it should be. We're good.
right. Well, and so illegally, not criminally, legally, the CFO is responsible for the financials. However, the board is responsible for oversight of the financials. And that's really important. So when you're signing off on things,
Know
you
what
need to
you're
know what
doing.
you're looking at.
Don't just sign it because so and so said it was a good. You need to really, really, really make sure that you know what you're signing.
And I will say that, there is some differences between corporate accounting and municipality accounting. They're honestly, and I have notes because I have to have notes. Otherwise, like the recording we did yesterday, I was everywhere. Not to say it won't happen again
Which may
today.
be why it didn't record the sound.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, baby Jesus. So, municipality and corporate accounting are two different animals. Corporate accounting is about results and it's the company's money. Municipal accounting asks, was it allowed? In a business, there's basically one pot of money of revenue that goes in and out, and management decides how to use what's left. The town has a whole bunch of these little legally separated buckets that the taxpayers, they're in charge of our money. That's our money. That's not private money. That's our money. And each one of those buckets has a legal separation of how they can be used, and there are rules and laws that are attached to those. So there's a huge difference between municipality and corporate. Corporate, the bosses get to decide. Municipality, taxpayers get to decide, and the board makes the ultimate decisions. So I started looking at property taxes because I'm like, we're not raising taxes, we're not raising taxes, we should be. At least a little bit every year just to cover inflation and all of the raises for the town employees. But we'll get to that. I started looking at property taxes to figure out how could we possibly not be raising taxes. So I looked at 2017 to 2024, and I just need to know what we were looking at. So I contacted the tax collector. Tammy was kind enough to send me a report of our what she billed out for taxes from 2017 to 2024. And keep in mind, our property tax bills are for town, county, library, and the fire and LVPA. About 60% of your property tax bill comes to the town of New Lebanon for our taxes. And then there's the portion of a special fund for the library and the LVPA, and then the county gets their cut. So when Tammy sent me those things, I noticed that our billed out amounts for taxes, property taxes, were about $350,000 less from 17 to 24. I thought that was a little strange. So then, which Shammy doesn't even know this, I looked at two homes, a nice little, I wouldn't say small, but smaller house and then a bigger house. So the smaller house in 2017, their property tax was $957.71. In 2024, it was down to $930.42. Doesn't sound like a lot, right? So then I looked at a larger property. In 2017, their property taxes was $6,550.89. In 2024, it was $5,991.34. Like that doesn't even make sense to me. I understand that when the assessments go up, the rates go down, but you should, at minimum, if you're not going to raise taxes, at least maintain that stream because we're losing revenue. So that was a little shocking to me. So then I thought, okay, it's got to be sales tax, right? So I looked into the sales tax. This is where things got a little weird. I sent an email to the CFO and the board asking for a sales tax report broken down from 2017 to 2024. I was trying to keep things the same. Like I'm looking at the same amount of time. And I apologize. I talk with my hands all the time. I assumed to generate this report, and I also asked, how does the county divide those funds? The answer to that is it's 70-30 based on, how many residents you have. The first response that I got from one of the board members basically told me to get a hold of the county as to not put additional work on Marcy, which made no sense to me because she's not our CFO or the bookkeeper. The second response I got was from the CFO, and she stated that I should be able to pull them from the year-end reports, but she would get them from the accountant when he got back from vacation. Like, I'm going,
Yeah.
what? So she did end up getting me the numbers, but she ended up getting from the county. I still couldn't understand why no one in the town hall had access to these documents. And I will also say that throughout my life, I've done bookkeeping, multi-year budget forecasting, and late auditing. And in my mind, these reports should have just been a couple of keystrokes for the CFO.
Hmm.
And I then contacted our town clerk because I wanted to know kind of like what the process is. Long story short, the only reports that are accessible to our CFO and the town hall, easily accessible without going through the accountant, is the abstracts for bills to be paid. So then I'm like, well, we were paying a bookkeeper, but if you look at, in no disrespect to the bookkeeper, there really wasn't any bookkeeping on there per se. She was basically the supervisor's assistant. So that was a little alarming because it showed me that there is no oversight in the office of the accountant. We'll get into the accountant conversation in a minute. So then there was an August 9th meeting where town board, I think it was Joanne or Craig or both of them, our town lawyer was there because there was some stuff going on with Scout. And one of the board members asked about the landfill money. The landfill money, the infamous $625,000. here's the deal with that $625,000. I found the original resolution from the county from 2013 where they gave us the money and what that resolution said. Basically, what that said was, hey, thanks for letting us use your landfill. Here's $625,000 of landfill's your problem. And it's to be used for landfill expenses. So that came in four payments. In 2013, it came $75,000. 2014 was 75,000. 2000, or actually, let me think about that. It might have been 14, 15, 16, and 17. In a 4-year period, they paid payments to get up to that $625,000. That was finagled by Mike Benson, who was the town supervisor at the time. So that has showed on the books since that time for $625,000, never changed. And when I say the books, I'm going to be specific. The year-end financials, because there are no other financials other than the supervisor's report. We'll touch on that too. So, and asked was, okay, so it's in the VIP fund. All of our money is in the VIP fund. What is the VIP fund? It's a high interest bearing account. Cool. You can have all of the money in the VIP account. However, things need to be separated by fund balance. And what's the fund? The 625 was a restricted fund for landfill. You have the highway fund that has to be segregated out. You have escrow, you have the court, you have reserves, you have grants. All of that stuff are separate funds and they need to be listed as separate funds. You can have them in one bank account, but they should get the interest that goes to them. And I know I'm hopping around in special funds,
Okay.
LVPA and the library are special funds that are tax levied. We'll get to that. Back to the 625. At that meeting, Joanne or Craig asked about the 625. Our supervisor slash CFO said it was in the VIP account. Question was asked about interest. She looked at our lawyer and asked, and he asked her, is it a restricted account? She said, I don't know. Lawyer asked her again, and she said, I don't know. That was before my time. Um, my
Not an answer.
belief, my
That's
opinion,
not an answer.
my opinion is it is your job to know that if you
Absolutely.
are our budget officer and our CFO. Okay, no problem. She didn't know. She said she would get back to him. To date, there has been no answer to that. So there are several accounts like that. So there's the $625,000 landfill from the county. We have in 2022, there was a resolution done setting up a facilities reserve of $300,000 and an equipment reserve for $85,000. I cannot see where those were funded. When you set those up, they're supposed to be cash backed, meaning cash has to be there. Same thing with the 625. The cash has to be there and any interest that goes along with that. You have the highway funds, same thing, has to be separate. When you have unallocated funds, those funds should still be showing. You have whatever. So those are special funds. And then you have your special funds like the LVPA and the library. Those also should have their own accounts within the same account. You can use the same bank account. You just have to separate them out. Those funds, the library and the LVPA, are paid quarterly. So we're holding on to that money and we don't have a right to spend that money. But there are times if you look back through all of these years that we have spent that money. That money should also be receiving interest. And someone would say, well, the LVPA has a contract for a specific amount of money. And that's all they should get. Nope. Law says it's a special fund. It's not our money. If there's interest, it goes with it. Law supersedes contracts. Long story short, you have all these funds that are set aside that we're not supposed to be touching. Not
They're
we.
only supposed to be for the specific reason.
Correct. They are specific things. And when you want to use that money, you need to get permission from the town board. There has to be a motion, there has to be a resolution. kind of like the budget amendments that we see every month. Same concept. That's not happening. Um, and that's the problem. So the problem is, and I'm going to give you an explanation of what these funds are real quick. Restricted funds are locked by law or voter approval. Reserve funds are savings account with rules. They are for specific purposes, equipment, facilities, etc. You can't dip into them to balance a budget. You have to take a formal vote. These are all legal things you have to do to use this money. You can use this money for other things, but it has to be voted on.
Right.
Special funds, which is the general fund, the highway fund, library, LBPA, same thing. They're not interchangeable. Grant money isn't free money, it's all conditional money. So here's the thing, all of these things have to be cashed back. So, for example, the 625 should always be there. The $300,000 reserve for facilities should always be there. So now we're at 925. The $85,000 equipment reserve should always be there. And whatever money we owe the LVPA and the library should always be there. It has been said that, well, we do the year-end report every year, and if there was a problem, the comptroller would catch it. That's not true. The comptroller doesn't catch things on the year-end reports because they're self-reported. They're not looking at your motions, they're not looking at your resolutions, they're not looking at any of
Right.
that. It's just a snapshot, and they assume that the town is following the rules. And when pooled
Exactly.
cash isn't reconciled monthly, so basically what you're doing is you're hiding all these problems during the year, and then things are plugged into the final report, and they're not accurate. And the comptroller has no way of knowing it. So then we step up to, well, the town does their separate audits, at the end of every year, which actually we just had that audit last Tuesday. And I'm going to backtrack just a little bit more. I had due for a request. I asked for fund balances again, which is how much is in each fund? Highway, LVPA, restricted funds reserve, the facilities, all of it. Those reports don't exist. You can only do a FOIL report for things that are currently being done. The accountant does not do those reports. So I don't know whose responsibility that is. That is, and I'm going to read you. This was the year-end audit that we do internally that was done last Tuesday. The annual audit of Chief Fiscal Officer. I'm just going to highlight a couple of things that honestly, if the town board approved this audit without these documents, it's inaccurate. Maintain accurate and complete accounting records to record monies received and dispersed. Accounting records are required to be kept on a fund basis. We know that's not happening. Prepare and provide interim reports to the governing board. Supervisor's report is it in, abstracts to get paid. Okay. Prepare and provide interim reports to the governing board. The only thing that is provided is the supervisor's report, which is prepared by the accountant. Everything that you see is prepared by the accountant. There is no access for anyone in the town hall to go into an accounting program. There's no oversight. And it's a problem, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Financial reporting, are interim reports, budget, actual trial balances, etc. prepared? No, there is no trial balances. Budget actual, yes, but trial balances, no. And if this was checked, yes, it's inaccurate.
Again, it's not like we're saying that somebody is purposely out there doing stuff nefarious. We are simply saying this stuff needs to be done properly because
Correct.
as it keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, for example, like a snowball, it just keeps building. And then someday it's, this is going to bite everybody in the fanny if it's not done right.
Yeah. And there
It
is a
causes
fund.
confusion and people, again, lack of transparency.
Mhm.
That's plain and simple.
And it goes against our own fund policy because in
That's
our
right.
fund policy, it states that there will be fund balances. There's not. And to talk about just about the accountant for a minute.
Yep.
So I had a couple of previous supervisors say some things in regards to the accountant, and I'm like, all right, let me see what I can find out about our accountant. He has been fired from Copic, from Cairo, and was fired by our town. And then when the supervisor before our current supervisor came in, she rehired him. And this is all, you can look this up. This is all news
Right.
articles.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Us,
There's news are,
yeah.
and
And everything that
that makes
I
no sense at all.
know, things started to get
It makes
wonky
no
with that.
sense.
Exactly. It makes no sense. And is it an
And
issue
he's
of,
basically gone unchecked. And again, not saying he's doing anything nefarious, just saying that he doesn't has a record of not doing things properly.
so
And when you
then,
have right, and when
so
you have on this hand, they're not doing things following, the guideline, and then somebody else isn't. So where are we going to end up?
now, is it because we don't pay him enough money? Like, I don't really know what the reason is because I've heard a couple of things. Well, we don't pay him to do those. That was secondhand. I heard that. That's your job to make him do those because what's happening is the town looks like we have all this money that we don't have. And it's not transparent and it comes off as being deceiving. I'm not saying it is. I do know that current board member is going to get some things together to ask the comptroller. There also has been a letter sent to the comptroller by the board, the previous board, asking for an audit. And again, I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just saying we're not doing things properly. And
And
it's
is
a
it
bit
going to
of,
bite us in the fanny in the long run? And are those that are doing this again, are they going to be here when this bites us in the fanny? Who's going to be left holding this big jumbled mess?
right. And
And again,
grants,
that's something the board needs to think of. And another thing people need to understand, yes, we just had an election. That's not the only election. We've got more coming. So people need to understand that. How many did you say? Two seats that will be up
two
on the
seats
board.
will next in 27, November 27, there will be two board seats that will be available.
And
The
I'm
one that
hoping to see Scout put his hat back in the ring. I would love to see him back on the board. I think he deserves to be back on the board. He deserves a fair shot at holding that seat. And I think he has a lot to offer. Everybody loves to talk about the younger generation. Well, here is the younger generation wanting to step in, wanting to get involved, to work for his community. And that's a good thing. And what bothered me about what transpired was, a lot of people, they could have just said, yeah, I'm stepping away from this with the way he was
he
treated.
didn't. He stuck it
And
out.
and he stayed. And I would like to see more of his generation be involved. We need them to be involved. It doesn't just end with us. Life continues. So they need to be involved. They need to be encouraged. And I am so proud of him for standing up for himself. And I would love to see him run again.
Same, same. And that's the thing, right? There is another election coming up. And the only thing I'm saying is, for example, if you look at the December 31st supervisor's report, we have $107,000 in the bank. Now you have to take out the escrow and the payroll out of that, and there was like 79,000, but yet we approved $155,000 worth of bills in December to be paid. We don't have that money. So I'm sure it'll get pushed to January. However, Town Garage had a minimum of 100,000 unallocated funds that he hadn't used. That should have been in there. So that tells me that highway funds are being used because not Pete's money, the highway money is not in there. It-
And isn't that something that could really be used right now, especially since they
yeah.
just had a fire?
Yeah.
You know, isn't it for
So
moments like that when something happens where they need that?
we have no contingency money for emergencies. We have none right now. So, it gets a little hairy. And look at I don't know where the problem is, but the only thing is there's a way to do things. All I'm asking and all the taxpayers should be asking is, we gotta get it right. We've got to get it right. Because most of 2020, and now keep in mind, there's a difference between money in the bank and budgets, right? So they're completely different animals. But when you have funds, reserved and restricted funds, they need to be cashed back. You cannot rely on receivables and all those things. That money is supposed to be there. Same
Right.
thing with grants, right? If forward requested, I think it was the park grant, they're supposed to be, per comptroller, there are supposed to be reports done. It is supposed to say how much the grant was, how much the taxpayer portion is, listing receivables, listing what's been, paid back. And all I got was a list, a bunch of bills to be paid. But that's not the way, that's just another report that's supposed to be done per the comptroller's office. We should be able to look at anything at any given time to get a true picture of our financials, and we can't do that right now. I'm scared
That's
for
not transparency.
no. And again, if you just didn't know, I mean, I find that hard to believe because the 625 was in a restricted fund until 2018. It got a general ledger number. It just got moved to a different number on the budget paperwork, but not on the year end reports to the comptroller because there was a $75,000 hole in the budget that the supervisor needed to fill. So on paper, not legally, but on paper, she made that $625,000 a non-restricted fund. That's where it started. That's how it's continued. I will say that Tishria, our supervisor, had every right to use that money for the landfill. However, this last month when she said that, she did. She had a right to do that. I'm not even sure there needed to be a motion or was a resolution. I'm not positive about that. But that money has been used previously, long before the landfill, which would have needed to have legal action per the board, and it hasn't happened. We just need to do things the right way. I will also say that I knew about all of this during our campaign. I chose not to bring it out during our campaign. I had many conversations in the background with our CFO and the board is fully aware of all of this.
Yes, they were sent, nothing is secrecy is going on here. They were sent a copy of all of this. Every member of the board, including the supervisor.
The only thing that they didn't get a copy of is there was some problems with the ARPA funds. And again, $220,000 of COVID money was not recorded properly, was not recorded at all as a fund. Some of the money, there's no sub recipient agreements, which I know is things you guys, I had to look it up. There are things that were done with ARPA money that per ARPA rules was not legal. Including paying the back taxes for the rail trail and the pharmacy and some other things. Worst case scenario, what happens if we don't fix all this mess? The state can come in and take over our finances. I don't think anybody wants that,
I know you want that.
right? We could lose our grants. We could also get suspended for 5 years of grants. So we're in a situation that can get really ugly if it's not fixed. We just need to fix it.
Yep.
I'm not saying anyone's stealing. I'm not saying anyone is corrupt. I don't know. I'm not a forensic accountant. I can only go by what I looked at. And I spent months making sure that what I was saying was true.
And
We
again,
just,
this is all out there for anybody
yeah.
to,
And if
to look
anybody would
into.
like a copy of the paperwork that was sent to the board, contact me privately. I will email that to you. You know, so that's really all I want to say on the financials. I will say Jim Dawson contacted me in regards to wanting to talk to me about the financials. I think he's writing an article about it. Jim Dawson does have a Substack. I think it's called New Lebanon Independent. I have not read anything on there, so I don't know what he's putting out. But we need to come together. We need to be transparent. The taxpayers need the truth and
Mhm.
the true visual and not the smoke and mirrors. Just we need our board to do things right. That's all I have to say about that. And sorry, everybody thinks I'm the bad guy, but I'm not.
No, 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 no. Also, um, on the concept of future shows, if you have ideas and thoughts or things you'd like us to talk about, again, stay away from the political. If there's something you're interested in us talking about, send an email. It's on our page, right?
It will be if it's not.
It will be on the page.
Oh, it is. It is.
Um,
It's on our Facebook page. You can
okay,
also find us on podcast as well.
right. And you can go ahead and send an email and let us know what if there's something you'd be interested in chatting about. And we will be doing lives as well. This was just, needing to get out the initial message.
Yeah, this was our test one. It'll get better.
Mhm.
Today's video compared to yesterday's that we did,
Yeah,
where the
already better.
audio didn't record, this went much smoother. And I'm sure I'm missing a lot of things. If anybody has any questions, reach out.
Yeah,
I'm an open book. There's no secrets.
yeah,
Not sure. We're gonna try to do these weekly. If you guys know somebody that has a home-based business, we'd like to talk to them. Let us know who they
yes,
are.
yes.
And jewelry, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't
We want to
matter.
help promote them.
Absolutely.
So I think we're good.
We're good.
We're good. So that's all we have for
Everybody,
today's
stay
episode.
warm. They're saying
Yeah,
something about another storm this weekend. Yay, fun.
yeah, it's pretty. It's pretty. So everybody have a great day, and we will see you next time.
Bye bye.